When you pick up the Quran for the first time, it's nothing short of life changing. And I know it's one of those things that unless you've been through it, you're not going to understand. When you pick up the Quran or hear the Quran in Arabic for the first time in your life, it's going to change everything for you. Unless you're one of those people that whenever you open the Quran, you don't see any words whatsoever. And if you are one of those people, you could just be on your merry way. Now, there has always been one major story in the Quran that has been extremely impactful for me, that holds a lot of messages, a lot of life teachings inside of it. And this is the story of Yusuf or Joseph, depending on what part of the world you're from. Now, there's something really special about the story of Yusuf or Joseph, and it's that it can relate to any one of us. His entire story is extremely relatable, and even in modern times, there's a lot of coexistences between the two. And there's a part of the story of Joseph that we all need to take a look at because the word trauma gets thrown around so much in today's society. Everybody talks about their trauma, their past trauma, and they use this victim mentality as a way to not have to put in any work or to try to garner sympathy from somebody else. And this mindsetting is extremely detrimental. If you have that victim mindset where you just want to be the victim and get sympathy all the time, it's going to hold your entire life back. It's going to ruin a lot of things. Now, the story of Joseph is interesting about this because he had a lot of trauma, a lot of hard moments that he faced, a lot of crazy stuff that he went through, but he was never traumatized. He never questioned God at any point in time, no matter what happened to him. He never broke his faith. He never turned away from God. He never broke at all. Like, this man went through everything and refused to break. And one of the things about Joseph that stands out to me so much is his unbreakable patience level. Joseph is a person that could easily get 99 mining in RuneScape. For those of you who are not familiar with the game, you click one spot every 5 seconds for hundreds and hundreds of hours. And you don't do anything else to achieve this. Joseph is one of those people and one of those prophets that is just amazing, just absolutely amazing, and it blows my mind every time I go through the story. So Yusuf was the son of a prophet, and at the beginning of his life, in the beginning of the story we get, he was stuffed in a well. And he wasn't just stuffed in a well from his ops or somebody who disliked him. He was stuffed in a well by his own brothers. So his own brothers left him in a well and then deceived his father about the situation. Whenever he was taken out of the well, he was sold as a slave. So the son of a prophet doesn't even have the freedom. He is sold away as a slave. He doesn't even have control over his own life at this moment, but he still has faith in God's plan. Never thinks back on it once. So whenever he was taken and sold off as a slave, he was sold off to somebody who was very influential that had a lot of power. And he was still young at this time, so he grows up essentially as a slave. So as he grows up, he starts to become an adult and he starts facing one of the hardest tests that I think almost everybody today would fail. So the wife of his master, which is also his master, tries to make adult advances on him. I'm trying to pick my words carefully. I don't know the rules of this platform yet. So the wife of his master develops love and affection towards him. She starts getting these adult romantic interests towards the prophet. And so she decides to set him up. She invites him over, and whenever he comes into a room, she closes all the doors and windows and tries to make advances on him. Now, keep in mind, this is his master's wife. Therefore, she is also his master as well. So not only is this a situation where it's wrong, but he's also not allowed to say no. Technically, he can't disobey her command. So not only does he have the temptation of adult romance in front of him, but he also has a power imbalance where he's not allowed to say no, and he still does the right thing. He still refuses to make romantic advances towards her. And he says that God has been good to him, therefore he's not going to break the rules of Allah. He's not going to disobey these orders from above. Now Joseph wants to get himself out of this situation where he has a tremendous amount of temptation in front of us, amount of temptation that I think almost all of us would fail today. So he rushes towards the door and runs into his master. His master is sitting right there, and immediately the woman starts to blame him, saying that he tried to force that upon her. So not only was he just faced with a tremendous test, but now he's being falsely accused for something he didn't even do, nor did he want that situation to ever happen. So immediately she blames him, and he speaks up for himself and said, no, it wasn't me, it was her that set this up. So they looked further into the situation, and I believe they discovered that the back of his shirt was ripped. I could be wrong on this. But anyways, they discovered that he was telling the truth and she was lying because the way the situation fell out. They investigated it. But that's not where things end at all. And they don't even slow down in that moment. So they let him know, like, hey, even though she was in the wrong, you have to keep quiet about the situation. It's the wife of a very influential, known person. And that if it comes out, it's going to be like political slander, that you're not allowed to talk about this situation. It can cause a lot of chaos within society. But even after this entire situation, there was no repercussions for her actions, and she is not done there. So she sets up another moment and sets him up in front of multiple women. So these women are holding knives. I'm assuming they're cutting vegetables or something of that sort. And she commands Joseph or Yusuf to walk in front of them. Now, as Yusuf walked past these women, they were completely distracted by his beauty. Now, there's some scholars that claim that out of all the beauty ever created for humanity, he got half of it. He got 50% of all the beauty ever created for humans. So this man was gorgeous, extremely handsome. And so whenever he walked past all these women, they were taken back. They were staring at him the whole time, and some of them had accidentally cut their hands. And for one reason or another, they used this against him. They accused him of trying to attract women or set women up, and that the only solution for this problem is to put him in prison. And whenever they take him off to this prison, he's unfazed. He has no issue with the moment whatsoever. And this reminds me of a quote that I heard recently, and I have no idea where this is from, but it stuck with me. Somebody had said that there's nothing anybody can do to them whenever they have faith in God. That if they get put in prison, all that does is give somebody more time to be closer to God. If they take their life, all that does is send them to their maker faster. Now, whenever he gets to prison, I believe there was 2 people in the cell with him. And when these people see him, they see the beauty from him, they see the righteousness, and they just assume, or there's a way for them to tell that he is a man of wisdom. So one of the first things that these people do is they ask him to interpret their dreams. And before he starts to explain their dreams to them, he tells them first about Allah and explains that God is the only thing that's worthy of worship. So even in this moment, he's teaching the glory of God. He's teaching people to follow Allah. Imagine going through every single one of these moments, these painful tests and trials, being tested by romantic interests, being screwed over by your own family, going through all these moments, and he still never turned his back. There's not a single time where he looked away. And this shows unbreakable patience, just unbreakable faith, and no matter what he's tested with, he always knew that God had a plan for him. So no matter what situation you're in life, no matter how bad things seem to be, always keep in mind that it is God preparing you for the next moment. It's preparing you for your next trial.